All right, I appreciate everybody coming out. What an honor it is to come and speak to this. You know, all the speakers that are up here, it's pretty awesome to be considered part of them and being asked to come here. Kind of how this all started was I ended up getting a horse. His name is Nowhere to Hide. He raced in the 2009 Kentucky Derby, and he is definitely my pride and joy. I never quite understood how parents always wanted to talk about how great their kids are and everything like that. And then once I got this horse, I can understand. It just gives me chills getting to talk about him. And so he's been just a wonderful blessing in my life. And to take you back, I mean, if she didn't tell you I played football, I was going to come up and tell you guys that I was a jockey. But anyway, I grew up playing various sports. I was actually wanted to become a professional soccer player when I was little. But when I was in 6th grade, I was 206 pounds. So that really doesn't work to be a professional soccer player. So then I had to figure out, okay, what am I going to do? And I found that I was just kind of naturally good at football. It was pretty easy to go and hit kids over and things like that. And fast forward as I walked onto the University of Minnesota with my brother, I was kind of always kind of an underdog type deal of I kind of made my bread and butter with just kind of working hard. And as you'll see throughout kind of the story I tell is that if someone tells me I can't do something, it really makes me pull every type of ounce of energy I have to kind of prove that wrong. And so I went on to the University of Minnesota, had a great career there, was a 2.5-year starter, played with my brother, great times. Later in my career, I got flogged with some injuries with a knee my junior year, then broke my ankle my senior year. And kind of going into my senior year, not really having an idea of, you know, how everything was going to play out. My dreams of going to the NFL kind of looked as it dimmered down because I missed the last half of the year. And then long and the short of it was as I came back, I had a tryout down in Tampa, got signed to them, and that kind of was my football career. I bounced around a lot from team to team, played a little bit of arena football, and kind of towards in 2013, you know, it definitely wasn't how I wanted my career to go. You know, I wanted to get on this team and I wanted to be a starter and everything like that. And in 2013 was a rough year. I bounced around about 4 different teams, and it was kind of at the point in my life I was in not a great spot, you know. And sometimes you got to get into those terrible spots in life to realize to find out what's coming down the pike next. And I actually called my dad. It would have been I believe in March, and I just told him, I said, I think I'm done. I think I'm burnt out. So I came back and I ended up meeting a girl when I came back to Minnesota, and she had a horse, and so we got kind of started hanging out with her and decided, you know what, I want a horse. And we were kind of going back and forth. I grew up, you know, I loved watching the Kentucky Derby, different things like that. Anything that had to do with horses. I mean, obviously being an athlete is the greatest athlete in the world is a horse. I mean, just how they move, muscle, everything like that. And so anyway, she had pointed me to the Maker's Mark Secretariat Center, and I started scrolling through, and I got about halfway, and I got to Noah is his bar name, but Nowhere to Hide, and I read his little bio, and they had some videos and stuff on him. And so anyway, once I watched the videos, I was like, how they were describing him in terms of some of the injuries he had, his personality, I was like, that describes me to an absolute T. This horse and we got the same personality, we're on the same wavelength. So I was all excited. We were going down to Kentucky for the first time to go pick up a horse. So we had something set up with Maker's Mark, and that's kind of when the story gets interesting. Is we get to Maker's Mark Secretariat Center, and the horse they had pulled up was not Noah. His name was Formaggio, And at that point in time, you know, we had asked about Noah, and they're like, no, you know, that's really not the horse for you. This is more so, which didn't sit with me very well, because I kind of had it planned in my mind. This is the horse I want. And a little backstory is Susanna, which is the director of Maker's Mark, she loves to tell people that I had no idea what I was doing riding, which is probably 100% true. I'd only been in the English saddle probably 2 or 3 times, and here I wanted a fresh off the track thoroughbred that was pretty hot. And so anyway, they basically told me, nope, you can't, there's no way you're taking this horse. First of all, I walked in and I was 6'2", 290 pounds. And Susanna was like, that's one of my favorite horses. There's no way this big burly man is taking one of my favorite horses when he probably doesn't even like horses that much. He's just doing it because his girlfriend likes horses. And so my brother and sister-in-law were with us at the time, and my brother, there's very few times in my life, I mean, I'm pretty laid back, but when people tell me I can't have something that I want, they kind of use the term as I look like I turn into the Hulk. I get very red, very passionate. And so I told him, I said, I'm not taking a horse. Let's get in the car. Let's go back. I mean, we just drove 15, 16 hours from Minnesota to come pick up, hopefully, you know, Noah, to take him back. And they wanted to give me a different horse that I was like, I'm not taking a horse. So we got in the car, turned around and left. We were probably there for 15, 20 minutes. And I was so irritated on the way back. About 15 minutes down the road, I pulled into a gas station, and my brother came into the bathroom. He was like, you know, are you doing okay? And I was like, I just wanted a chance, you know. I got 0 chance at trying to get this horse. And he goes, well, how about we call and see if you can sit down and talk to him. So we went back. I sat down with Susanna, and she definitely loves to tell the story about, I pulled my chair up to her desk and I kind of leaned forward, and obviously you could see I was pretty red in the face and everything like that, and I was just kind of explained my background as being a football player, and how Noah and I had some similarities. And so anyway, it took us, I believe it was 7 trips down. Susanna made me, all I asked for is, I said, I don't have to take the horse today, but just give me a shot, you know, give me an opportunity. And that was kind of like my, throughout my entire football career, was just like, hey, give me a shot, let me show you what I can do. From walking on to the University of Minnesota to even with the Tampa Bay Bucks, I mean, I went down there on a tryout. I was like, just give me an opportunity and let me prove you wrong. And so Susanna decided, she said, okay, it's probably against my better judgment, but if you guys stay, you can come back tomorrow. And just that whole process of teaming up and learning, I mean, so many new different things. You know, she sent me back to Minnesota. Told me, she's like, well, you're too big, so you need to lose weight. She told me, you need to take riding lessons 3 days a week. You need to read a book. I would talk to her on every Sunday night about just riding and everything like that. And she always tried to relate it to, you know, playing football and everything. And the crazy thing was, as I told people, and I'll even tell people today, playing football is way easier than riding horses. So there's so many technical things, and that was one of the things that drew me to it also, is that once I started riding, being a very competitive person, I mean, I was pretty upset at how bad I sucked, because I mean, you see somebody ride a horse and you're like, I mean, is it really that difficult? You're just sitting there going around. And so that was one of those things where it was just being a competitive person and everything like that. But you know, meeting Noah and just having that connection, and I mean, just talking with some of the people back here too about, you know, the purpose of today is, you know, when you're in a situation like mine, when you're kind of in a bad spot, or you're looking for what's coming next, you know, horses, especially in my instance, and I obviously read more and hear more about it, but I mean, the Thoroughbred Aftercare I mean, is a huge thing. I mean, it's drastically changed my life. I mean, if you'd asked me 4 years ago if I'd be standing here, I'd have told you you're absolutely nuts. If you'd have told me that I would have went from 1 horse to now having 23 horses, I'd have told you there's no possible way. But it's, you know, Noah was the one that kind of literally flipped my life upside down. I mean, I went from thinking I'm going to be a football player, then I'm going to be a golfer, and that's kind of how I'm going to live the rest of my life, to now my girlfriend and I, along with my brother, we bought a 60-acre property that was bare ground, and we put in all the fencing, and we have about a $3.5 million farm that we built, and we have something that Minnesota needed for a long time. And I always like to tell people, as I refer to our barn, as kind of if you plopped it in Kentucky, it would fit in, because people obviously in Kentucky take great pride in their facilities and everything like that. And the whole thing with the horses is that they've played a huge part in my life. Obviously, I wake up every single day, and getting to go see Noah is probably the best thing. And just having all the horses and allowing us to, you know, we're growing a lesson program and everything like that, and giving kids the opportunity too to experience that. And that's one of the biggest things, is just realizing that, you know, people that give to the aftercare alliances and stuff like that, I mean, you have no idea how awesome that is in terms of what it does for other people. Because from my standpoint, I mean, if it wasn't for Mrs. Reggio and Maker's Mark Secretariat Center, I mean, honestly, I have no idea where my life would be right now. Obviously, I was always playing football, kind of, it was still in the wings, but I was looking for that next thing to kind of, that I would be passionate about. And I told one of the gentlemen back there, I said, honestly, knowing what I know now, I said I had fun playing football, and that was a phenomenal time in my life. But I said I would take what I'm doing now any day over the career that I had. Just, I mean, it's made that big a difference in my life, and it's fascinating. I even to the point now where I go to show, and most people are just kind of shocked when I say that I ride horses, A, and B, that I jump horses. Then it really gets them going. And one quick story, there's a guy that I buy hay from, a big Tampa Bay Bucks fan. He actually knew who I was kind of back in the day, and I had told him about a couple weeks ago that I was riding in a show coming up. And he lives about an hour and a half away, and he goes, "There's no way you jump a horse." And I said, "No, I'm serious. I'm not just joking with you." So I told him, I said, "Hey, this is the date if you want to show up." And never thought I'd hear anything from him. And it was probably 9 o'clock that morning. I was showing in the afternoon, and I got a text from him, and he says, "What time are you showing, Tiny?" And so I showed him the time, and he drove an hour and a half just to see me show horses. And in Minnesota, it's kind of I don't know, want to say a joke, but there's so many people that want to show up just because a guy my stature is riding. And, you know, most people, I think, part of a curiosity, want to see if I'm even halfway decent. Other people, I think it's so unique to see. But it's one of those things, it's crazy how horses from various aspects of life can really affect you. And, you know, Noah's been probably one of the greatest things, maybe besides meeting my girlfriend, one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. But he's definitely my pride and joy. And if any of you guys ever get up to Minnesota, don't hesitate to look us up, and we'd love to have and show you. And but anyway, I appreciate you guys letting me come out and take your time. But again, we just want to thank anybody that does anything for the Aftercare Alliances. And Maker's Mark Secretariat Center has been just unbelievable. I think we have 7 of their horses right now, and we're actually looking at possibly teaming up with them and making a Maker's Mark Secretariat Center North. So thanks again for your time. Appreciate it. If you got any questions afterwards, don't hesitate to come up and ask me. But thanks again. Appreciate it.